So this is one of the non-food crop that grow in our country, rubber, natural rubber. It is an equatorial crop. Generally we see in equatorial crop, tropical crop, subtropical crop means that crop requires that condition. Suppose equatorial crop means this crop require equatorial type of climate. What is equatorial type of climate? In equatorial region, it receives more rainfall and more humidity and more temperature as well as a rainfall, more rainfall. That's what we call it as a equatorial climate. That's why rubber requires some equatorial climate. That's why they are calling it as a equatorial crop. It is considered as a equatorial crop. But under special conditions, it also grows in tropical and subtropical areas. So the ideal weather conditions to grow rubber is equatorial region. Under special conditions, it also grow in tropical or subtropical areas. And rubber requires moist and humid climate. What it requires? It requires moist and humid climate with rainfall of more than 200 centimeters. See, which is the highest. Whatever the crops that what we discussed until now, generally only paddy requires 100 centimeters of annual rainfall. But whereas rubber requires more than 200 centimeters of annual rainfall and temperature about 25 degrees Celsius. That's why it is equatorial crop. So rubber crop requires moist and humid climate with rainfall of more than 200 centimeters of annual rainfall and temperature about 25 degrees Celsius. It is an important industrial raw material. So it is mainly grown in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka and Andaman and Nicobar Islands and Garo Hills of Meghalaya. Where it grows, it mainly grown in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andaman and Nicobar Islands and Garo Hills of Meghalaya. So if you notice, these are all near to equator. So Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andaman and Nicobar, these are all very near to equator. Of course, Garo Hills, if you come to the Garo Hills, in Garo Hills, already here we discussed about under special conditions it grows in tropical and subtropical. So in the our rank in the world is 5th among the production of within the production of natural rubber in the world. Here some pictures are also given. See once how they take from the plant. So how they take the some liquid part here. So it convert into rubber. Here see how they are extracting some liquid material from rubber. And let's see the textbook once. Have any additional pictures beyond this regarding this crop? So which is not there. Next one, it comes to fiber crops. Fiber crops. So in many fiber crops that grow in our country, those are cotton, jute, hemp and natural silk are the 4 major fiber crops grown in India. Cotton we know, jute, in generally we call it as a Nara, Janapanara like that, Nara. And hemp, it is also family of jute crop. Natural silk, that all we know it. The first 3 are derived from crops grown in the soil, that means plant sources. And the last one, what is that last one? Silk. It is obtained from cocoons of silkworm fed on green leaves, especially mulberry leaves. I think so in lower classes in science lessons you learned how to produce silk from silkworms. The process I think so you learnt in previous classes, lower classes. Rearing of silkworm from the production of silk fiber is known as sericulture. Rearing of silkworm for the production of silk fiber is known as sericulture. And then come to this cotton plant and all. So these four are discussed here. So this is natural rubber, how we are using for different purposes. So auto tires and tubes, cycle tires and tubes, camel back, footwear, belts and houses, latex foam, dipped goods and others. In this way we are using natural rubber. And come to the fiber crops, that what already we discussed. Here it is about silkworm. See, once you can understand silkworm. Silkworm. And rearing of the silkworms for the production of silk fiber is known as sericulture. And come to the cotton. India is believed to be the original home of cotton plant. What is the meaning of this sentence? India is believed to be the original home of cotton plant. That means cotton cultivation was first started in our country only. So the world believed that the production of cotton first started in our country. That what we can understand from that sentence. India is believed to be the original home of cotton plant. One of the main raw materials for cotton textile industry. India is the third largest, of course now it is second largest producer of cotton in the world next to China. And cotton grows well in drier parts of black soil of Deccan Plateau. Generally, cotton, to grow the cotton, black cotton soil is ideal. That's why only black soil is also known as black cotton soil. So, black soil is ideal to grow the cotton crops. In India, black soils are extensively found in Deccan Plateau region. So, Deccan Plateau is formed due to volcanic activity. That's why these are all black soils. And what weather conditions it requires? So it requires high temperature and light rainfall, 210 frost-free days. It requires 210 frost-free days. That means snow, less snow, 210 frost-free days. And bright sunshine for growth. It is a kharif crop. It requires some 8 to 10 months to mature. Cotton generally grows as a kharif crop. It requires some 8 to 10 months of to get its output. So the major cotton growing states are Maharashtra, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Punjab, Haryana, Tamil Nadu and UP. These are all the major cotton producing states in our country. Is it clear regarding cotton? Cotton is to be believed as the original home of cotton plant in our country. So it is one of the main raw material for cotton textile industries. India is in second position next to China. Cotton grows well in drier parts of black soil of Deccan Plateau. It requires high temperature, light rainfall, 210 frost-free days and bright sunshine for growth. It is basically kharif crop. It requires some 8 to 10 months to mature. And the major cotton producing states are Maharashtra, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Punjab, Haryana, Tamil Nadu and UP. Come to another crop. Sorry, it is not given here. Let's see in textbook. After cotton, so this is the cotton plant. See, once picture is given regarding cotton, how it is. I think you know. And come to another crop, that is jute. Jute is known as golden fiber. Jute is known as a golden fiber. Why it is known as golden fiber? It is some color is similar to the gold. So that's why it is known as golden fiber. And moreover, it is somehow valuable product. India earns some what we can say, handsome foreign reserves by exporting jute and jute products to different parts of the world. So it is known as golden fiber. Jute grows well on well-drained fertile soils in floodplains where soils are renewed every year. See, try to understand once. Jute grows well on well-drained fertile soils. Already we know well-drained fertile soil means water should not stagnate in that place. That's what we call it as a well-drained fertile soil. And mostly these are soils are grows in floodplains that too renewed every year. Renewed means last year you learnt about Bangar and Kadar, older alluvium and newer alluvium. So that means Khadar. So here for to grow the jute, Khadar is ideal to grow the jute. Especially it grows in West Bengal, Bihar, Assam, Odisha and Meghalaya are the major jute producing states. Out of these, West Bengal is important producer of jute in our country. It is due to river Hooghly. It is more water intensive crop for growing as well as the rating of its top layer. It requires more water. So that's why the major jute growing belt is in Hooghly belt. And then come to its use. It is used in making gunny bags. Gunny bags, you know, I think so. Brown in color. Generally paddy, where the paddy is filled in these bags. Brown in color, gunny bags, mats, ropes and carpets and other artifacts. Due to its high cost, it is losing market to synthetic fibers and packing materials, particularly the nylon, because these are cheaply available when compared to jute. That is why jute is losing its market to these artificial crops like synthetic fibers, packing materials, especially nylon. That's why in India, Indian government made national jute policy in 2005. So come to technological reforms and institutional reforms which were introduced for the well-being of agriculture in our country. So technological and industrial reforms. It was mentioned in the previous pages that agriculture has begun practiced in India for thousands of years ago. So generally agriculture which was started somehow 10,000 years ago. Some of the books it gave it as a some 10,000 BCE, before Common Era. So somehow cultivation started some 10,000 years ago in different parts of the world. In India, somehow it was started in some 9,000 years ago. So that's what they gave it, 1,000 years of ago it was started in. Sustained uses of land without compatible techno-institutional changes have hindered the pace of agricultural development. If you use the natural fertility of the soil without proper inputs and all, naturally soil may lose its natural fertility. It will be a problem in a long run. So that is why some technological as well as institutional reforms that introduced in India after independence. So in spite of development of sources of irrigation, most of the farmers in large part of the country still depend upon monsoon and natural fertility in order to carry on their agriculture. So out of total cultivated land, 60% of land still depend on monsoons, or that means rainfall only. So only 40% of agriculture land has some irrigation facilities, that is somehow safe. And in many areas, these the people which give manure or fertilizers are less in quantity. So that's why they are mostly depend on natural fertility of the soil. So that's why over a long period of time, it will be a problem when you use the natural fertility. That's why it is a big challenge to the Indian agriculture. And moreover, in India, second most populous country in the world. That's why we have to protect the agriculture sector. So agriculture sector provides still approximately more than 50% of total population of the world. Come to its institutional reforms that which carried in our country, which we classify into different phases. In the first phase, after independence, Jawaharlal Nehru's government brings some sort of reforms for the well-being of agriculture sector in our country. So those are cultivation, consolidation of holdings, cooperation and abolition of Jamindari system. Let's see. Cultivation. Last year you learned the concept of cultivation which was started in Russia. So after Russian Revolution of 1917, the cultivation was started in our country. In 1970, the cultivation started in India, but which was not much successful when compared to Russia. So consolidation of land holdings, that means in land reforms were introduced in India to bring consolidation of holdings. So come to cooperation, means cooperative societies were started in our country, especially farmers cooperative systems started in our country. So the main objective of farmers cooperative societies were to give loans to the farmers at reasonable interest rate, and it provide good seeds, quality HYV seeds to the farmers, and it may supply fertilizers as well as pesticides at subsidy price. So in this way cooperative system is somehow successful in our country, which helps the farmers. And abolition of Jamindari system. This Jamindari system was introduced by the Britishers in our country. During the time of British, Jamindari system was introduced. As per Jamindari system, the land in a particular area was handed over to Jamindar, generally who is powerful in that particular area. So he is responsible to give land to the others as a rent base. He collect rent from them, and he is responsible to pay land revenue to the government. In this way, Britishers overcome the difficulties to collect land revenue from the farmers directly. So as per that Jamindari system, land was concentrated in the hands of a few people. So when our Indian government, that means we became independent. So Indian government abolished Jamindari system, and by that the land was taken from Jamindars and it was redistributed to the landless peasants as a part of land reforms. So and these land reforms which continued as a part of 5-year plans, especially in India. In previous lesson also you learned that 5-year plans were introduced in India from 1951 onwards. In 1950 March, 5-year plan was started. Planning commission was set up by the Indian government. From 1951 to 56, the first 5-year plan was implemented. In the first 5-year plan, the highest priority was given to agriculture sector. So within this agriculture sector, the utmost priority was given to irrigation. That means most of the major irrigation projects which were started in our country as a part of first 5-year plan strategy. So in this way we gave some importance to agriculture in first 5-year plan. Within the agriculture, more and more funds were allocated for construction of multi-purpose projects. So at national level, many multi-purpose projects were started in India. And then come to land holdings in our country. Already we know that land holdings are small fragments due to law of inheritance in our country. So that's why land holdings are small. It is a big another challenge in our country. To overcome this land holdings, Okay, land holdings. So reforms were introduced in our country is Land Ceiling Act was made. As per Land Ceiling Act, so some sort of restrictions were imposed over the land. That means a particular family should not hold more than a ceiling figure of land. That means as per the Land Ceiling Act. So as per Land Ceiling Act in our country, so one family requires only 9 acres of dry land, wetland, and 18 acres of dry land. One family should consist of 9 acres of wetland and 18 acres of dry land. If any family have more than that, under Land Ceiling Act, government will take that land and it will be redistributed to the landless peasants. But on the whole in India, land reforms were implemented with half-heart. That means acts were there, but those acts were not implemented in an effective way or with the true spirit. And come to other reforms which were introduced in our country in 1960s and 70s. Especially in 1960s, India faced an acute shortage of food grains in our country. So to overcome this shortage of food grain, in India we introduced Green Revolution technology in our country. Last year you learned something about Green Revolution technology in economics. So this Green Revolution technology was first initiated by Norman Borlaug. Who initiated the Green Revolution technology in the world for the first time? Norman Borlaug in Mexico. In India, we adopted the same Green Revolution technology under the supervision of M.S. Swaminathan. M.S. Swaminathan, who introduced Green Revolution technology in our country. That's why we considered M.S. Swaminathan is the father of Green Revolution technology in our country. So what are the features of Green Revolution technology? Using of HYV, high yielding varieties of seeds, and optimum usage of fertilizers and pesticides, and proper water management. These are all comes under Green Revolution technology. With the Green Revolution technology, total production as well as productivity increased in food grain production as well as other production in other crops also. In the same way, so White Revolution, that means Operation Flood, was also introduced in our country by Kurian. Kurian was considered as the father of White Revolution in India. So White Revolution is the main objective of White Revolution is to increase production of milk in our country. So to increase the milk production. So Green Revolution, main objective of Green Revolution was to increase the food grain production as well as productivity of the country. So at the same time, White Revolution, the main objective of White Revolution was to increase milk production by proper management of animal rearing. That means to encourage the good breeds of cow as well as buffaloes, which gives more yielding and all, and proper medical treatment as well as proper feeding to these, by that to increase milk production all over the country, which was successful, which was initiated in Gujarat by Kurian, who is considered as a father of White Revolution in our country. So, and cooperative system was also developed in Gujarat due to White Revolution. Amul products and all, we know that milk products, which is the initiative of White Revolution only. So these are all the reforms which were introduced in agriculture sector in 1960s as well as somehow 70s. Come to the 1980s and 1990s, a comprehensive land development program was initiated, which include both institutional and technical reforms. That means earlier the land testings were not there. After 1980s and 1990s, land soil, they collect some samples of soil and the soil test will take place. By that they conclude that that particular soil is rich in so and so. Suppose the particular soil is rich in calcium, poor in phosphoric acid, so and so. These are all the tests. By that conducting soil test, we conclude that a particular soil is rich in so and so nutrients and so and so deficit. By that farmer may give more inputs where it is deficit. So which helps to increase the production from the field. Especially in 1990s, some other reforms which were introduced were provision for crop insurance against drought, flood, cyclone, fire and diseases. So crop insurance was introduced. Earlier it was not there. That means if crop insurance is paid by the government, nowadays government is somehow contributing some of the crop insurance and nominal amount may be paid by the farmer. If crop is failed due to the reasons of drought, flood, cyclones, fire, disease, etc. So then the crop insurance company will pay compensation to that concerned farmer. So by that farmer may not get loss due to all these things. It is a reform introduced in our country. Establishment of Grameen banks. So that means especially in rural areas, banking facilities are less. To grow the crops, farmer requires some loans, timely loans, because farmers has to invest money, especially small and marginal farmers. The number of small and marginal farmers are more in our country. So that's why to increase production they need more investment. So to overcome the investment, banking number of banks which were available in our country was less in number. That's why to overcome this problem in India, Grameen banks were introduced. Grameen banks, you know, I think so, Chaitanya Godavari Grameen Bank, which is a bank under Andhra Bank, which was founded by Andhra Bank. Like that, cooperative banks. So these are all main objective of these Grameen banks and cooperative banks are to give more loans to the farmers at reasonable interest rate. By that farmers may not fall in the hands of money lenders who charge more interest on loans. So that's why farmers may get investment within the time. By that they can produce more and more output from the agriculture. So this is also institutional reform. And then come to the other reforms, interest. Some of the states are offering less interest rate and some of the states are giving loans to the farmers at zero interest rate. Zero interest rate means banks collect the interest, but that interest is paid by the concerned state governments. So in this way, they are helping the farmers to give loans at lower rate of interest or interest-free loans. This scheme is implementing in very few states. And along these, Kisan credit cards. Kisan credit cards were introduced by the union government. Kisan credit card helps the farmer to get loans quickly from the banks. Personal accident insurance scheme. That means a farmer, on the name of farmer, some insurance scheme. They pay some sort of amount, accident insurance scheme. By that, some have any personal accidents to the farmer and family members may get some sort of amount due to the death and all. So these are all the reforms which were introduced by the farmers, which give some sort of benefits to the farmers. Moreover, special weather bulletins and agricultural programs for farmers were introduced in radio and televisions. I think you know, if anyone who follows TV and all, at last they give weather bulletin, especially during the time of cyclones. They give some special warnings, especially Doordarshan and radio give more focus on weather bulletins and all. And then the government also announced minimum support price. Last year you learned MSP. That means farmer need not sell their produce to the traders at less price. To protect farmers from the exploitation of traders, Indian government announced MSP, minimum support price. Minimum support price which offered by the government includes the production cost as well as some nominal profit also. So by that, farmer is somehow saved from the exploitation of traders. So in this way, MSP was introduced by the Union government. Union government directly procure food grains from the farmers by offering at least MSP. If it is market price, FCI, last year we learned, Food Corporation of India, it procure food grains from the farmers by offering at least MSP, even though market price is less than MSP. If in market price is more, FCI is also procure food grains from farmers by paying the market price only. So MSP is a minimum offered price to the farmers. By that we can save the farmers to some extent. They won't get at least some sort of losses. So otherwise these speculators as well as middlemen who exploit the farmers by offering less price, and they form as a syndicate. By that they offer less price to the farmers. So to safeguard these people, these are all the institutional reforms which are introduced in our country. See, once it is very much important for 5 marks question. So institutional reforms that were introduced in India, we categorized under different phases. The first phase, so after independence, whenever we got independence, at the time whatever the reforms which are introduced comes under the first phase of industrial revolution, first phase of reforms. So those comes under collectivization, consolidation of holdings, cooperation, that means cooperative societies, and abolition of Jamindari system. So these are all initial reforms which were introduced in agriculture sector. Along this, in 5-year plan, utmost priority was given to agriculture. That means more and more funds were allocated to agriculture sector in first 5-year plan. Especially within the first 5-year plan, we gave more importance to irrigation facility. And then in 1960s and 1970s, green revolution as well as white revolution technologies were introduced in our country. The green revolution is meant to increase production as well as productivity in agriculture, especially to increase food grain as well as other crops. White revolution or Operation Flood, which main objective of this white revolution was to increase production of milk by developing some high yielding breeds of cow as well as buffaloes, proper medical treatment to this animal wealth, as well as giving a good quality fodder to these animals, which helps to increase the milk in our country, which helped to increase livestock in our country as well as its production, cooperative system and all. And in 1980s and 90s, land development programs were introduced, Grameen banks were established, cooperative societies also started in our country, and Kisan credit cards are issued by Union government. By that they may get loans quickly. Personal accident insurance schemes, these are all introduced by the governments to protect the farmers, as well as health bulletins in radios as well as televisions, and government offers MSP, minimum support price. By that farmer can save from the exploitation of traders or speculators, middlemen, whoever offer some less price to the farmers. And one more thing which happened in our country is Bhudan or Gramdan. So come to Mahatma Gandhi declared Vinoba Bhave as his spiritual heir. Heir, you know, na, successor. He was declared as a Vinoba Bhave as his spiritual heir. He also participated in satyagrahas as one of the foremost satyagrahis. Vinoba Bhave. He was one of the voluntaries of Gandhi's concept of Gram Swaraj. After Gandhiji's martyrdom, Vinoba Bhave conducted some Padayatra, undertake Padayatra to spread Gandhiji's message, covered almost the entire country. Once when he was delivered a lecture at Pochampalli in Andhra Pradesh, that means at present it is in Telangana region. At the time it was in Andhra Pradesh. Some poor landless villagers demanded some land for their economic well-being. That means they try to bring notice to the Vinoba Bhave that they had no land. So landlessness was their main problem for well-being. That's why they demanded to give some land to cultivate. So Vinoba Bhave could not promise it to them immediately, but assured them to talk to the government of India regarding provision of land for them if they undertook cooperative farming. But suddenly Sri Ramchandra Reddy stood up, who was a Jamindar at that time, landlord at that time. He stood up and offered 80 acres of land to be distributed among 80 landless villagers. That means he was ready to donate 80 acres of his own land to farmers. Each farmer get 1 acre land in this donation. So this act was known as Bhudan. Bhudan. Bhumini Danam Chedam. Bhudan. Later he travelled and introduced his ideas widely all over India. Some Jamindars, owners of many villages, offered to distribute some villages among the landless. It was known as Gramadan. Gramadan means during the time of kings or Britishers, some of the whole land within the whole village was given to a particular person. Here he was ready to hand over the land of that particular village to Vinoba Bhave. He will redistribute that land to the landless patients. That's what we call it as a Gramadan. If a landlord, a rich person give land, that's what we call it as a Bhudan. If the land within the whole village is given under this program, that's what we call it as a Gramadan. Later in this way, overall India, landowners gave land under the program of Bhudan or Gramadan, especially due to land sealing acts, that what already we discussed. If any family have more land than as per the permit of land sealing act, naturally government only will take. So instead these people only offered land to the landless people through Vinoba Bhave. So that's why his Bhudan Gramadan movement of Vinoba Bhave is also known as bloodless revolution in India. That means land was taken from rich landlords and it was redistributed to the landless people in our country. It was also a part of land reforms. Of course, it is some extent only, little extent and all. So remaining, what was the contribution